I would say that, and I'm not saying like this is not a path for everyone, right? Like, like for me, I'm trying to grow my business. Like, like I'm on a path to, I want to have a 7-figure business, right? I want to have something where I can, essentially manage a team of people that are manufacturing things, right? And, for me, and I wish I had this grand strategic document that I was like going off of and said like, at any given point in this journey, like if you asked me, it's like the job, the job interview question, well, where do you see yourself in 5 years? I don't know where I see myself in 5 months.
Welcome to the Laser Source Podcast, the #1 podcast if you're looking to grow or scale your laser business, or if you're just getting into lasers. We've got everything you need to know, especially now because we've got the great Alex Campbell here joining us on the podcast. Again, it's our second week in a row with him. Part 2. In the first part, we talked all about the technical setup, the machines, kind of what's going on inside Alex's shop, and we go into things like EasyCAD 2 and Galvo lasers and how to buy them and just buying machines in general. There's a ton of just really awesome information in that episode. So if you haven't already listened to that one, pause this one, go back and check that one out, and then meet us back over here because today we're getting into the business side of things. We're going to be talking about taking the leap into being a business owner and putting all of your eggs in that basket. We're going to be talking about the workflow, some custom website things, getting different clients and customers. So I'm really excited to jump into that with Alex Campbell today from Etchified. Alex, thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thanks for having me on the podcast.
Yeah, of course. It's so great to have you back here for part number 2. We've also got with us today Tony. What's up, Tony?
Hey, what's going on, everybody?
Gio's over here hanging out. How's it going, Gio?
Good. How are you?
And Lithgow Lights from Down Under. What's going on, Lithgow?
Hey guys.
All right.
Not a lot.
Good. Hey, that's good because we're here. We want 100% of our focus and attention on Alex because he's got gold. We're opening the treasure trove here, and I'm really excited to pick your brain. The first thing that I really want to ask you about, and I've got my own stories I'm not going to bore people with today, but I love hearing other people's stories on this front, is how you decided. You were sitting at work one day, you're working a full-time job, you're doing whatever, and you're like, well, this is it, I'm done, I'm going to start my laser business. How did you make that decision? How did you know it was the right time? What steps did you take when you started? I just let me know. Let's hear about it.
Yeah. So, I mean, the first one I'll give is that there's never a right time. Just like having kids, getting married, there's so many life events, buying a house, there's no right time to start your business, right? And if you're waiting for that right time, you will die, right? I spent, 20 years as a paramedic. And if there's one thing that I learned is that life is very fleeting, right? Like, and I think that's sort of a concept that, paramedics and nurses and people that have seen a lot of that stuff deal with, right? Is that I know in the back of my head that I could leave here, I could get killed on the way driving home from my shop today, right? So, so it's that little bit of like, if you don't do it now, you're never going to have that chance to do it, right? But basically, as we sort of talked about in the last podcast, if you haven't listened to the first episode of the podcast, I recommend you go do that. There's some more origin story stuff there, but basically, I was working for a big, governmental, health department, right? And really, I've always been interested in entrepreneurship and business and technology, right? And I'd worked on actually in the last few years, a couple like really big, cool technology projects where I actually spent 6 months actually investigating apps for CPR, like crowdsourcing CPR. So someone has a cardiac arrest, like you send out like a text message to anyone who has this app downloaded and they go do CPR, because if you don't have CPR done on you, if the ambulance shows up 10 minutes later, you're done, right? So I did some research like that. But what I found was that, the larger our organization got, and I was working for like literally, I mean, it's the second largest corporation in Canada, like next to the military. So I mean, it's that big, 100,000 employees, right? But there is a lot of, and of course through COVID and stuff, is that a lot of the focus really shifted from doing things that were like innovative and cool to like just keeping things going, right? And I mean, I've been a behind the scenes paramedic. I haven't been a frontline paramedic for quite a long time, right? But what I really saw was that, there was not as much innovation happening. And for me, like, it was just a fulfillment thing, right? Like, I was like, okay, do I really want to, like, go up, become a middle manager, great wages, pension job and stuff like that. But really, in the end, it just wasn't a fulfillment of the work. So the way that actually sort of happened was that, I was a public education officer, right? So, the key part of that being public. So my job was like very public facing, right? So 4 or 5 days a week, I'd be in elementary schools, talking to community groups. I was actually our media spokesperson as well. So something happened, I'd actually go on the news and talk about what happened and stuff, right? So, but when COVID hit, automatically no schools, no community events and stuff like that, right? So basically I was like sitting around and, doing like Zoom calls with a bunch of like uninterested high school students about like careers and stuff. And really I just like lost all my drive to do that stuff, right? I mean, if you're a public education officer and you're not educating the public, it's really kind of like you're really disheartening.
Yeah.
But on the side, so for a few years before that, I'd actually had my CNC engraving business, right? So, and as I mentioned before, I started on Etsy. Fantastic platform for that sort of stuff, any type of craft stuff. Because the big thing is that with Etsy versus even like Facebook and stuff is you get access to a global market, right? And you can actually choose who sees your stuff. But I mean, I was selling signs to like Italy and all over the northeastern United States is actually where most of my clients were from, like in like New York, New Hampshire, Vermont, and stuff like that. And I was selling those signs, but what I found was it was really just such a negative experience, right? So like, as most people know, with like custom Etsy stuff, is that there's very limited customization ability, right? So it's like you can put in like a couple lines of text of what you're looking for, but really it's up to you to go back and forth with the designer. And really, for every sign I did, I was spending an hour or two of like design work, and I was using the Vectric software stuff, like Vectric VCarve Pro,
Yep.
To the designing, sending renderings back and forth with the customers. But what I sort of came to the conclusion on was it wasn't good for the client, and it wasn't good for the maker, right? So it's like no one's having a good experience doing this. So I basically started thinking about like, I'd worked with, companies like Vistaprint and stuff like that in the past. And I'm like, well, if I can order like business cards or t-shirts or like other promotional goods, why can't I order laser engraved items the way I can order a business card, right? I'm like, it's same sort of, same inputs really. It's just, how do you get that output? And, basically I knew that e-commerce was the way I wanted to go, because to do things in volume, doing one-offs with customers is really tough, right? And I think that's one of the most common things that so many people ask: how much should I charge for my work? Well, it's different, right? Because I can have a client that walks into, because I do some job shop work, but I'll have a client walk in my shop and they'll be like, okay, here's like a USB stick with what I want on my thing, and the next one comes in and they're like, well, I want something kind of flowy. And, and then you sit there for like half an hour going through fonts and stuff. And what I do is I actually have like a 27-inch monitor. I just turn it so that we can both see it. And then we just sit there and like in Lightburn, I just do up the design and I just import like an image of what we're engraving. So like if they bring in a cutting board or something, I actually just take a picture of the cutting board, upload it into Lightburn, and then do the layout right on the cutting board. So there's no questions of like, okay, how is this done, right? So that when they leave, they have basically an idea. They take a picture with their cell phone or whatever, and then that they know that that's what it's going to look like. But even that, like, it takes so long that even if you're charging, a minimum $35, $45, it's just not cutting it for the time you spend. So I started poking around. I built a bit of a Shopify store because I knew that I wanted to sort of sell through there. But my goal with building my Shopify store was finding a plugin that allowed people to design things. And in the print world, it's easy, right? You can go through like Printful. You can actually do drop shipping. A lot of people don't know this, but like if you want to do like start a t-shirt business, you don't have to touch a t-shirt to do a t-shirt business. You can like go to like Printful or like Custom Cat and stuff like that. And then basically you can like load a plugin for a Shopify store that sends the designs to them. They make and fulfill your order and send it to you. And a lot of these like canvas companies that do those sort of like, they make like big canvases for your walls and stuff with the pictures. It'll be like 30 companies feeding one factory. So there'll be like 30 different storefronts and they all feed one factory that makes them, right? And that's the grand scheme of things, that's might be down the road for what Etchified does.
Right.
Actually, the like manufacturing side of things, where people can just, I can just get orders through other companies and not do the sales, but that's something else. But so I found this plugin called Zakiki, and it was basically had the features I wanted, right? So for one, it could do like an engraving preview, where I basically say that you're only allowed to have like a gray color. I wish it could do like an overlay, like a silver overlay on like a cup or something. But like with a cutting board, for instance, you can actually do a reduced opacity, like a dark brown reduced opacity overlay. You can't do a drop shadow or anything that would really sort of simulate the engraving, but it's a pretty good approximation, right? But the other features are that someone can upload their own artwork, and it actually will remove the background from their artwork. So you can go on Google Images, find any image of a cowboy, whatever you want, and as long as there's not like a ton of color in it, it will upload to my site. Now, there, it's not the end all be all, right? Because the interface, especially on mobile, about 65% of my clients order from mobile devices, which is something you can just find out through analytics. But the experience on mobile, I mean, phones are not meant for graphic design. Like, as much as people would like to think they are, they're like, it's not meant for graphic design. The interface has some things where it's like sizing text and like rotating things can be a little bit clunky in that. But for the most part, I mean, I just hit over 16, like in 1 year that I've basically been operating my website, I hit 1,600 online orders with very little issues. Like for people, I've maybe gone back to 5 people and asked them for like a better logo or like different artwork or something. Mm-hmm. And for the most part, it just works. It has trouble because it basically works on like a threshold type thing. It has a little bit of trouble with like reds and yellows and stuff. But for the most part, especially like someone uploads like a black and white image, it'll just put it on their cup or their cutting board. Or soon I'm actually getting into dog tags, like pet tags, like things like Ridge wallets and stuff like that, and jewelry as well. So I'm actually really expanding out. I'm using my fiber laser, and I'm going to be expanding my metal offerings as well as things like cake pan. Like I'm doing those like JDS cake pans as well. But all of them, you can get basically a good approximation of what you have. Now, basically, I took all that stuff and basically built a website. And then all of a sudden, like day one, I started getting orders, right? And I'm like, okay, well, this is actually working, right? And between that and then my CNC work, so I had like, once again, like I had this huge, like 4 foot by 8 foot industrial CNC router. All this stuff is in my garage. So I got like a Galvo CO2, a 3 foot by 4 foot gantry CO2, a 4 by 8 foot CNC router with like a 5 horsepower dust collector and stuff. I had to run extra power to my garage
now,
and stuff.
Are you still working at this point?
At this point, I'm working full time.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So this is all just like my side gig, right? Yeah, exactly. Right. But basically like when I started getting busy, I was coming home from work and I was working for 6-8 hours sometimes, or like staying up till like 2 or 3 in the morning, getting up at 6 and then going to work again. Right. And it always been in the back of my mind that I wanted to, leave and start my own business. Right. But it's like, there's never that right time. But, as we mentioned in the previous episode, I found this co-working space, right? And it was this co-working space. And because I was processing a lot of wood at the time and doing a lot of these live edge signs, I wish I had like a one of these to show you. Like there's just, maybe I'll send you a couple photos of some of this stuff that you
or we could check it out in the Discord as well. Yeah.
So, so I was making these like absolutely like just gorgeous signs. And I thought that was going to be like a lot of my business. So between Etsy and then Etchified, my website, I was starting to do some good sales, right? Now, when you're working from in your garage, those sales, like that money goes a long way, right? So then all of a sudden I'm putting money away. I'm saving up to get, the big Galvo laser and stuff like that. And it was going pretty good. But then I found this co-working space and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, and then I was just talking to the people there and I'm like, okay, these are the people I want to spend my days with, right? Like these are creative people. This is where I want to spend my time.
Iron sharpens iron, right? It's like you gotta be around those motivated entrepreneurial people and you kind of hone those skills yourself too, just by surrounding yourself with those kind of people.
Yes, I mean, there's a guy making like ultra high end lighting fixtures, and doing like all the design and like he had like a Haas mini mill, and you take like chunks of raw aluminum, make them into like $2,000 light fixtures. And there was like I said, like a toy maker, graphic designers, a perfumer, all these guys doing just like incredible woodworking, right? But what I found with that is that my laser engraving just kept growing and growing and growing. And then I found that I was enjoying the woodworking less and less and less. And a lot of that was to do with just like, you know, return on your time investment, right? So like the woodworking stuff, you know, you know, like your profit margins seem high, but it's a high time investment, right? So you might be making, you know, you take a $40 chunk of wood, you turn it into a $300 sign, but your time investment is 4 or 5 hours, right? So like your dollars per hour is actually a lot lower than you'd think with any of the custom wood stuff, right? Plus, when I was actually working with like real woods craftsmen, like people that knew what they were doing, I was like, oh, actually, I don't know a damn thing about woodworking, right? Like so you know, I'm like, I can make live edge signs, but like, you know, this idea of like, you know, making end tables and stuff, like, and even at that, like these guys would be putting, you know, like, you know, 50, 60 hours into something that they're making like $1,000 on, right? And I'm like, okay, well, that's, you know, not a, you know, sustainable business model, right? Like if you have like super low overhead, it's one thing, but you know, like as I was growing, like my overhead was becoming more and more. And then the other thing was lasers and a wood shop don't mix. So basically every day, like I'd come in, all my tumblers, like on my carts, you can see how like I have these like U-line covers on my carts and stuff. Close them up every day. I come in, they're like everything's covered in dust. My gantry or my Galvo CO2, like I'd be blowing like sawdust out of it every day. And then basically I was like, okay, I need to get out of here. So sorry, when I moved into the co-working space, that's when I decided to quit my job, put in my resignation. So I'm actually still on the books as a casual paramedic. And actually through like November, December, like -20, I actually had to reorient and like go on the ambulance again. So I was actually like middle of the pandemic, I spent like 2 months working on the ambulance again. And for me, that was my time that really solidified. I'm like, you know, like this isn't for me anymore, right? Like it was, you know, like working the pandemic, like, and I mean, shout out, I mean, it's September 11th today. So I mean, like shout out to all the first responders, all the frontline workers and stuff that have kept going through this pandemic. Yeah. I know today can be a tough day, especially for like the firefighter brothers and stuff, but man, like, you know, it was just something that like, I just didn't have in me anymore. Right. And I mean, you know, anyone, if you talk to police officer, paramedic or whatever, like there's excitement, but I mean, like the bulk of your day is just dealing with other people's crap, right? You know, like it's, you know, like other people have, you know, it's like you're not saving lives. Like, you know, I can kind of like my entire career, I've probably saved like 10 lives, you know, and like, you know, some of them are like,
lives.
You know, but you know,
Campbell's
it's like
only saved 10 lives, everybody.
but, you know, but it's, you know, it's not, you know, it's like, you know, you watch like a Chicago fire or something like that. You think that they're like, you know, they save people like every day, right? It's like, you know, like, you know, you can go a long time between like, you know, like actually making a difference in someone's life, right? Like, you know, and that's a little bit frustrating, right? And then like add the pandemic and stuff on top of it. I was like, hey, like I'm just not going back to this,
well,
right?
At some point too, it's like you kind of age out of it, you know, like let the young guys do the hard work, you know. I mean, you put in your time, you've changed people's lives, you've saved people's lives, like that's incredible. And now it's like, you know, I think it's okay to give yourself permission. If you've sunk 10, 15, 20 years into a career and you did what you wanted to do down that path, like saying, well, I've been doing this for 20 years, it's too late to go start something new. That's I think it's okay to give yourself permission to say like, I want to hop on a new track. You know what I mean? You should be doing what brings you happiness. You didn't waste 20 years being a paramedic, you know what I mean? Or teaching health. Those were years well spent, but it might be time for you to like, you know, switch tracks and do something else that makes you happy and makes you feel fulfilled. I think it's okay to give yourself permission to do that.
Yeah. And I think that another thing that a lot of people that might be considering leaving, like especially, you know, like let's say like a government pension job, is that people like the one thing that actually like in my last couple of years of working, the one thing that like just like broke my heart every time I heard it was people be like, oh, only 5 years till I can retire. And it's just like, man, like it was just like, it broke my heart every time I heard it, because you're like, you know, you're talking about people that are just like literally trading years of their life for money. And, you know, I saw, you know, I had a couple colleagues just die, you know, pass away suddenly. You know, that was really sort of like a big wake up for me. Yeah. And then, you know, I had another couple like close colleagues that I worked a lot with, and, you know, they died like a year after they retired. And I'm like, I'm not going to, you know, like you have a finite amount of time on earth. Like, don't let something as silly as like, oh my gosh, like, you know, if I don't have this pension, like I'm going to, you know, be homeless in 20 years. Like, don't let that thinking stop you from doing what you want to do. Right. Like, I mean, I am making less money than I've probably made in the last 15 years right now. And I mean, that's part of, starting a business too, right? Like the first couple of years are lean, right? Like,
Right.
like good thing I got a sugar mama at home. Right. But,
Hmm.
but it's, I'm making half of what I've been making probably for the last, like 10, 15 years, but I'm more fulfilled than ever. Right. And I think that there's this fallacy that people think, when they get this job and they're like, oh, my version of success is like living in this neighborhood or driving this car or whatever. Like my version of success is like waking up in the morning and not going like, fuck, I got to go do this again. Right. I wake up
Yeah.
in the morning and I'm like, check my phone. I'm like, oh, I got like 3 sales and stuff. And I'm like thinking like, what's my next products? Like how am I going to do this? Like I'm thinking about like the day's production, stuff like that. Like
It's addicting.
there's nothing there's nothing I'd rather be doing. Right. And that to me is like probably the biggest validation. Right. And luckily for me, I was able to like, once I moved out of the co-working space, and they were awesome. I mean, they let me break my lease early because I found like I'm in the perfect shop. I'm in about 1,200 square feet on the main floor, 600 square foot mezzanine, lots of storage and stuff like that. But I mean, like I'm in like what most people I think would call like a dream shop. Right. And I mean, like I'm a year into my business and it's just been like absolutely awesome.
Yeah, being able to like wake up, set your own schedule, do what you want to do when you want to do it. You're calling the shots. There's just like an infinite pool of energy that you can draw from when it's yours, and it doesn't matter what is yours, but if and when it is yours, it really kind of like breathes fresh life into you in a way I don't think that you can even really understand without getting a taste of it. You can kind of like picture it, like, man, it would be nice to work for myself. But when you're really in it every day, I totally get like you check your phone, you're like, oh man, I got a couple orders, or like, what products am I going to add? What services can I add here? Even with the channel, I'm like, what lasers can we add? You know what I mean? To like show people, I'm like constantly researching and I can't stop. Like, I can't stop doing it. I'm doing it all the time because it's fun and it's fulfilling and it like brings you just this kind of like weird ethereal happiness that you can't, it's very hard to pinpoint, but that's really really great to know. I'm super happy to hear that you're doing well and that you found something that brings you that kind of joy. I think that's really really awesome news, and I think that'll give a lot of people that are listening hope that it's not too late. You can start now, and you certainly have the power to walk down that path if you're ready and you want to. What we're gonna just like, I'm gonna just throw, there's absolutely no good segue because that was really powerful to hear that from you. But there's no good segue for that because it's such an emotional and powerful thing. But what happens when I go on Etchified and I do my little thing on Zakiki and I click submit order? Where does that little packet, my little order, what happens
Where
to it
does it go?
when it goes to Etchified? Yeah.
Yeah. So first of all, I will say that like Shopify has been an awesome, an awesome platform, right? And like I would highly recommend it. It's there's definitely some bugs and stuff like that, but like basically Shopify is like a lot of the infrastructures where you can plug in apps, right? So basically, like you get Shopify, it's like the core, it's the skeleton, and then you use different apps. So I have like an app called Locksmith, for instance, that I can actually like lock out a collection. So that's actually something I'm experimenting with because let's say I have a police department that orders a whole bunch of items from me, right? They don't want their logo available to everyone, but they want their members to be able to go in and use that logo to design things, right? So I can actually lock out things like lock out a collection or a product so that someone could actually go in and like, have like a Edmonton Police Department login to actually do that, right? And that's just an app, right? So the app I use for my personalization is called Zakiki, right? And I did a lot of research. I tried pretty much like all the major ones. Like there's like Ink Bay and I can't even think of some of the other ones, but like a lot of them had like old clunky interfaces or they weren't full featured enough, right? So in the back end, what happens is, of course, there's all Shopify infrastructure. And if you want to do volume, so like right now I do probably on average about 15 to 20 like orders per day through the website in addition to like my corporate orders, right? But if it gets busy, like I can do 30 plus orders per day. So, and if you don't have a system for managing that, which is like what Shopify is good at, it can be really, really cumbersome, right? Because Shopify, it integrates with my shipping and stuff like that. So I can actually just, send it off to my shipping app, click on shipping, get shipping and stuff. But the Zakiki part, so what happens is that there's a customer facing interface. And this is where this customer focused design came from, right? So when I was researching this, I was like, there's got to be a better way to do this, because most people just want like a stock logo or stock image, something simple, a couple lines of text, right? Like, and for me to sit down with someone, if I'm making like $20 on a cup, I can spend exactly 0 minutes with the customer to make it, right? And or to design it, right? That's just the bottom line, is that, I work in a high volume, low margin business, right? Which is what a lot of manufacturing is, right? And a term I'll probably throw around quite a bit here is lean manufacturing, right? So basically, like, we have, like, everything we do is about how lean can you get the process. And lean's not like how cheap can we get it. Like, it's not, lean has nothing to do with cheap, but it's like how streamlined and how much resistance to putting a product out the door with that value added work. The only time that I'm actually making money is when the laser is putting things, the 10 seconds the laser's like engraving something. That's when I'm actually creating value. Everything else is just a process that is getting that item out the door, right? So it's like, we have a work cell, right? It's very tight. I digress. Back to Zakiki. So what happens is that someone basically, if someone uses one of my graphics, so I have probably about 500 or 600 graphics. So we have like hunting, fishing, outdoors. There's probably like 6 or 7 items that like literally get used like all the time. Like, I have this like little like life is good vector. I just buy them on Etsy. Like, I look for ones that are like unlimited commercial use. I know that there's like all this like crazy dark web of like reselling other people's files and stuff like that. At some point, you just have to say like, like if some creator from Lithuania wants to come at me and give me a cease and desist for using their vector that someone's reselling that they designed 15 years ago, like, come at me, right? I don't have anything like sports logos, brands, anything like that, because that's where you get in hot water, right? So tons of stock graphics. Mother's Day, Father's Day, weddings. Anytime there's a holiday, I make sure that I like highlight like what's there, right? So Valentine's Day, I have like these Valentine's, like a sweet tart that says "I tolerate you" and stuff like that, right? Like, just like little things. I have like a sarcasm and swearing.
So I'm gonna break you again for a second.
Yeah.
So do you, with Zakiki, can you upload your own vector library?
Yeah,
default?
exactly.
That's what you're saying, and it keeps a library for you.
They pick. Yeah.
And then, they have the option to upload something if they want to. So how do you handle it so you're saying we're avoiding things like sports logos. What if I log on to Etchified right now and I upload a New York Giants logo? Are you gonna process that job, or are you gonna tell me to get lost?
So I thought about like how to answer this basically, but I think that everyone, probably all the people watching this, the textbook answer would be, I would send them an email saying, we're not licensed by the New York Giants to engrave this logo. So, please take your money back and, go find someone that will. Bottom line is, if, I'm not going to put a New York Giants logo in my library of things. Someone submits a New York Giants logo with Happy Father's Day from, Brad on it, I'm probably going to engrave it, right? That's chances of, and that's the thing, right? So
there's nothing in my display case that has New York Giants. I'm not selling you a product that is a New York Giants thing, but if somebody comes in and they're like, I'm making a Father's Day gift for my dad, you know what I mean? And they ask, I'm probably going to run that job for you.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that like annoys me on like the Facebook groups is that like, someone will be like, oh, well, if someone wants this engraved, like, what would you do? And there's all these like social justice warriors that are like, I would turn them away and tell them to, go report me to Disney or something like that. But it's like, the bottom line is that like, for the most part, like this like one-off stuff, I'm going to engrave it, right? Right. And the ones that everyone, always, and the funny thing is that like all these people are like, oh, Disney and Harley Davidson won't come after you. But I have yet to see like any evidence of, a Harley Davidson cease and desist letter from someone. And, the crazy part is I live in Edmonton. Like I live 400 miles north of Montana. The amount of Green Bay Packers things that people, no one sent this to Green Bay Packers, but like the amount of people that want Green Bay Packers logos blows me mind. Like that's like 10-1 to any other thing. But honestly, I would say that like people that want like a logo, like a brand logo that aren't actually with a brand, like we'll talk about corporate stuff, but I mean like the people that want a logo, I'd say like 1% of my orders, maybe maybe a little bit more than 1%, but like it's low. Like, I mean, it's pretty rare that someone wants that. They want like little sayings, they want other stuff. Right. So,
sure.
And not to mention that a lot of the stuff, like, someone wants an NHL logo right now. Yeti has NHL logo cups and they sell them for like the normal retail price. So why would you come pay me, an extra $20 to engrave something on a cup for you, right?
Right. So you've got the Zakiki library. You've got it all filled out with a bunch of pre-made stuff. People can upload their own stuff. Let's say they finalize their design. They're happy with what they're seeing. Well, before we even do this, I have one other question for you. People can upload their own vectors or graphics or whatever for their engraving job. Can people upload their own, like, and I know that this isn't how your business works, but like in my business, we specialize in laser engraving everything. That's where the channel name came from. I literally don't turn anybody away. Can people upload like a backdrop to design on? So like if they had like a can cozy, could they take a picture of their can cozy, send that, and then drop like artwork on top? Like, is there that kind of double-sidedness of like not only the customization but the stock? Does the Geeky support that?
Yeah. So yeah. If on Etchified, basically, I have, and that's a big part of the legwork with doing something like this is I have photos of every item I have.
Mm-hmm.
So you're live designing. So in Zakiki, when you bring in an item, so when I have a new item, it pulls the items from my store, right? So that's that link. So I basically say, okay, I want to make this tumbler personalized, right? So what I'll do is I'll actually say, okay, people can choose a front side or a back side engraving, and then there's an actual picture of the item, and I say this item is 170 millimeters tall. The engraving area is 70 millimeters by 80 millimeters. They have that box that they can do it on, but like they're literally engraving or they're putting their artwork on a photo of what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And then they can actually even export a PDF proof of that artwork and like have that as sort of their proof.
So they couldn't take a picture of an item they owned and upload that and then customize
No,
that?
no. So, but that's where I'd sort of differ because I really, that's like job shop work to me, right? So like
Right.
that's the type of stuff where like local customers bring in items for me to engrave, but all the stuff I do through the store is all stock that I carry,
Yeah.
and then people buy stock that I carry, right? And I mean that comes with its own issues, right? I mean like carrying inventory, supply chain and stuff like that is really tough for some of that stuff.
Right. Yeah.
So someone uploads either like a JPEG, like a bitmap based or a vector based thing. So you can upload like AI, EPS and stuff right to my site. The one that I cringe, luckily people, like I have a warning, like when the customizer opens up, it has a warning with like a little photo, like with an X over a photo. Like
Yeah.
I don't engrave photos. And that's like one of the problems with Zakiki, right? If I engraved a photo, I would have to charge an extra $20 or $30 processing fee to do a photo.
Right.
Luckily, I get maybe 3 photos a month come through. I just process them, which is a night. Like anyone who's like tried to convert a photo to vector for engraving, because I can engrave bitmap on when I do the 3D wrap, or even on rotary engraving. You can't rotary engrave a bitmap if you have like on EasyCAD 2.
Right.
You have to have a vector file. So, and then that was one of the downfalls to EasyCAD 2 is that if this vector file is like over like 1 megabyte, it would crash EasyCAD, right? Like it was just like, does not compute, and it would crash out, right? At least EasyCAD 3, I can load like a 3 megabyte file in. And then the other problem, right, is that with photos is that those are the ones that, it's not black and white. Like there's gradations and stuff. And like, I can say that like out of 1,600 online orders I've had, I think 2 or like literally less than 5 people come back and say like, I'm not satisfied with the quality. Like I'd like, a replacement or something. Every single one has been a photo.
Mm-hmm.
Every one.
Mm-hmm.
So I try not to do photos, right?
Yep.
So you upload your bitmap or vector-based art. Now, if you use something off of my website, so this is the beautiful thing. If you use something off my website, it actually shoots. So and then it creates a master file for me, right? If you choose something off my website, it creates a DXF master file for me that I can import right into EasyCAD.
Wow.
So someone goes on, they choose one of my stock graphics, they choose one of the fonts off the website, and they just like design something using that. DXF, I import the output from Zakiki, and it basically it creates a zip file on the server. I have I don't know if you guys have ever heard of like Zapier. Zapier, however it's pronounced. Mm-hmm. I have a Zap that basically drops that into a Dropbox folder with that thing, and it also unzips it. So basically, I have like on my cloud documents, I just have a folder. It'll have no personal information about the client, but it has basically like a DXF, an AI, a PNG file, as well as it has a folder with the images that they uploaded. So if someone uploads a graphic or something like that, and it doesn't come through, or the engraving doesn't quite look, the render doesn't look quite proper, I can then take that base graphic that they submitted, and then I can actually trace that. And once again, I use Lightburn for like the entire workflow, right? And it'll do that. But the DXF and the way that Zakiki works is if I have the proper dimensions, it even comes in the right dimensions. So like literally, like my workflow is I open up the file, bring it into EasyCAD. I know basically just from experience, like what the placement on the cup is. So I know that, like, for instance, like my middle placement is like 62.5 millimeters in the y-axis. Enter that in, 3D it. So that's what I call it. We call it 3Ding it. It's not. I know it's not technically a verb, but we 3D it. Wrap it around the cup or the bottle or whatever it happens to be. Then we hatch it and then just send, right? So it's a really like fast workflow. Wow. I'd say from the time that we like open an order to process it to the time it's in the box ready to go is definitely less than 10 minutes. But like I'd say like most items are probably 4 or 5 minutes from the time that we open up the file to like actually dump it, right? Wow. Now if someone has a bitmap, that adds the extra stage of having to trace it. Now we get actually really good. So whatever they see on the website, actually, so the preview that they see generates a 300 DPI PNG file. 90% of the time, we can actually trace that PNG file. Then the fonts are good enough and stuff like that. We can trace that PNG file and then just like literally like, on Lightburn, Alt T for trace, enter, Alt X to export it. Like that's how fast it is. It's like 10 seconds in Lightburn, right? And then we will upload that into the same folder. So we keep all the folders, and then I also keep, because I have a lot of repeat customers actually that are like, hey, I ordered a cup for you like 6 months ago. Can I get like 40 more of those, right? And then basically I put it back in that folder, and then we archive all of those just on a cloud file, right? So yeah, I mean that's the workflow, right? So sometimes like probably like 1 in 10 orders, we might have to do like a little bit of advanced tracing, but like for the most part, and I think that's one of these like fallacies that I think people would have, right? Is they'd be like, oh, if I let people like upload their own artwork, it would be just a dumpster fire of like spending all day every day in Illustrator. But it's like we have a workflow, and like that's our like lean manufacturing aspect of this, right? Is that like the way that we can make profit on high volume, like low margin items is the fact that 4 or 5 minutes we can go from opening that particular sales file on Shopify to having it ready to, boxed, shipping label printed, everything ready to go.
That's so powerful. You've got me rethinking my entire business model over here, because we do job shop work, and I feel like to even approach your levels of like profit and success that you've experienced in your first year, I would have to charge 3 times more than what I'm charging here right now. So being able to do that and do it so lean and so fast really blows my mind. I can't even wrap my head around it, honestly, because I've been doing things so long this way, and it's really incredible. I know that you've been talking with Tony a lot about getting him set up in a similar fashion. He has set items he wants to sell. He wants them to be customizable. Zakiki's going to be a great fit. Hopefully we'll get a chance to talk a little bit more about that in this week's Patreon episode, but I'm going to do what I do, and I'm going to crack the whip and move us along here. So the website itself, we live in a like modern 2021 world where you have to be on 80 platforms, 80 social media platforms, and you have to maintain your website and you have to maintain your social media presence. What's your experience with that and getting orders? Do you keep up on social media, or are you like all gung-ho onto the website? What's kind of your experience with that, and like gaining customers? What kind of customers are you serving? That kind of stuff, and how are you bringing them in?
So once again, so like I really focus on the lean manufacturing concept, right? And honestly, like, so let's just to be clear up front, because of my website and the way that I do the business, is that only about 40% of my actual like sales volume, like sales numbers, like gross income is from website sales. The other 60% is from corporate sales. Now, so in my early days of doing things, so Etsy, once again, so like I'd recommend if anyone is interested in selling stuff, get on Etsy. Etsy has a lot of like good local buying stuff now too. do the Facebook marketplace, do the local things, because the bottom line is that if you're not making a good product and people don't want to buy it, like that's probably something you want to know like upfront. Or if you're, trying to make something that like, people are buying, like I literally, so I actually just fired my first customer because there's this guy and he came in and he's like, oh, can you like laser cut some letters for me? I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. I like have a laser, I can laser cut some letters. But then he's like, came back like a week later and he's like, can you laser cut more letters? And then like, he just like showed up with like this huge like sheet of like, here, can you cut all these letters? I'm like, dude, like you can go on Alibaba and buy MDF letters for like a penny a piece. I'm like, just go do that, right? But so for me, it's really been like this, like focus on like lean processes and lean manufacturing, right? And also like, success and profitability are two different things, right? Like my company is not super profitable. I make enough to have the lights on in a shop and buy the new equipment and stuff like that, but like actual profitability is going to come with scale, right? And like a doubling of sales, because a lot of those bottom line things are fixed prices,
right?
But if we want to talk about like Facebook versus like Facebook Marketplace and like the social media things like Instagram, or like there's some guys in my area like laser guys that are like really like getting into like what's that one, TikTok. Mm-hmm. You can tell how old I am when I can't even think of like TikTok off the top of my head.
Right.
But
right.
But they're banking on those, right? But here's the bottom line for me, right? And I sort of spelled it out to you guys before we started the podcast. If a company wants to do a 5-figure contract with you, they're not going to look on Facebook pages. They're going to go to Google. Bottom line, They're going to Google laser engraved tumblers Canada. Like that's like literally the number one thing that people come to my website is they search laser engraved, or they could search custom tumblers Canada, custom Yeti Canada, like et cetera, right? So it's like custom tumblers Canada, right? That's the number one thing that people search for, right? And the bottom line is that if you want to do, volume and get like good high quality clients, and not to mention also clients that are like across the nation. I live in Alberta, which is above Montana. I do probably maybe not 80, probably 60+% of my sales in Eastern Canada. So like Ontario, Toronto area, like just like north of New York, that's where I do like most of my business, right? If I just had like a Facebook marketplace ad going, like there's no way I'd be getting that business, right? So, and then the other thing is like with a business is that people inherently, I feel, have trust in what they think is a business, right? Like e-commerce is nothing new, right? I mean, like, we're talking stuff that's like 20 years old. We're not at the point where people are nervous putting in their credit card details to order something online anymore, right? So versus, like, I don't know if you guys ever tried to sell something on a marketplace, but like you get like, 50 people. Is this still available? Is this still available? Right. And it's like,
yes.
And like it's brutal, right? So like I would put like a Tumblr ad on Facebook Marketplace and people would be like, like you get that canned response. Is this still available? Yes. Okay. These are available. Here's how the process works. And so you spend all this time like making a response or whatever. And then like that person never even comes back. Right. People do all their tire kicking and I don't even know about it. Right. I have a pretty decent like e-commerce conversion rate at about 5%, which is like e-commerce world. That's actually pretty good.
Right.
That means that 19 out of the 20 people that come to my website leave without purchasing anything. Right. At Christmas time, I'll probably see that come into like, I'm estimating probably the 8% range, which is like Amazon's like 11%, which is, so that's like really good. Right. And that's sort of what my marketing team and I have sort of like discussed and we're sort of hoping to hit. Right. But that means that there's 19 people out of the one person that buys, there's 19 people that I don't have to deal with. They come to my site, they make things on, they play with a little customizer and stuff like that. Now, I acknowledge freely that some people don't have any computer design chops and might be turned off by the fact that they can't come to me and order a tumbler. But the bottom line is I'm trying to run a business. And if I'm going to spend 45 minutes designing a tumbler to make $20, they can go to, get her done laser engraving in their neighborhood to the guy that has a K40 with a rotary. They can go find that guy and he can spend his hour because he's happy to get that sale. And I'm happy to give that sale to him, right? But for me, it's finding that, gaining the trust in the people, having a well-built site. But then the big thing for me with the website, and this is something that I didn't even realize, was the corporate side of things, right? So, I've done business with some of the, huge companies kind of like, last Christmas, I got an email like from Lululemon and they're like, they wanted, a whole bunch of staff tumblers for like their Christmas party. Right. And they're like, oh man, this is like Lululemon. They're huge. Right.
Wow.
So, I've been dealing with, I'm quoting out, like some like huge contracts for like, Jameson Wellness, which is like a huge vitamin company in Canada. I just did a bunch of orders, and I've actually become a preferred vendor for several like large companies like Canada Life, one of the largest insurance companies in Canada. Like I'm one of their preferred vendors now and stuff. Right. So getting the trust of the businesses also has to have this official feeling to it. Right. They're not surfing Insta to find like, laser engraver in my area. They're going to Google. They're saying like, wholesale tumblers, Canada, wholesale custom tumbler, that's what they're searching for, right? They're not looking in their local area. So, and it's a bit of a different concept, right? And I don't want to say that like social media isn't a part of it. I fully acknowledge that my social media is like not where it needs to be, because a lot of people, like my wife, she buys a lot of stuff from like Instagram ads and stuff, and that's where she's searching to find her stuff, right? But for me, Google's a known quantity, right? I put X amount of dollars into Google ads. I can go on analytics and see. So, my ads perform at anywhere from like 700 to 1100% return on ad spend. So that means for every dollar I spend, I'm getting 700 to, or sorry, $7 to $11 on like sales, right? So you spend $1, you get $11 in sales. That's not too bad, right? You spend $1, you get $2 in sales. You're not making any money, right? So it's this real sort of like fine game, right?
So
And
so we're saying here, you if you're gonna do like a website or social media, do the website. Start with that official presence. Is that, unless you want to do the job shop thing and you want to be Get Her Done Laser Engraving, and if you do, that's okay. Or if you're only doing it as a hobby, that's okay. But if you're looking to scale, if you want to grow,
Website.
the website is the key here. That's kind of what I'm hearing.
yeah, I would say that sums it up. And I'm sorry if I'm sort of to Get Her Done Laser Engraving. We're not trying to disparage you, but
No, we love Get Her Done Laser Engraving. We work with so many people. I'm Get Her Done Laser Engraving with a YouTube channel at current. So no offense intended or taken, but that's, I'm trying to learn here too, because at some point you do want to grow and scale. And unless I start a McDonald's chain out of Get Her Done Laser Engraving, and you go from the first, In-N-Out burger to, 50 In-N-Out burgers, where you're doing this kind of mom and pop shop stuff, with a brand, and that's like a whole different path. But a lot of people aren't going to upgrade that way because that's expensive. A lot of people are going to upgrade the way that you're describing to us here. And I think that's what makes this particular interview so powerful, because that's, there is a transition that needs to occur, and there are decisions that need to be made. You have to let some of those customers go. You have to upgrade your game. You have to level up to that lean process if you want to scale. That's kind of the trick here, I think, is like the key word, that the operative word here is scale. And scaling up means letting go of some things that just don't hit those profit lines that you want to see going forward, even if it doesn't necessarily make the most sense. Because we make lots of money with mom and pop stuff here, but we would definitely have to let a lot of that dead weight go if I ever wanted to take things in the direction that you've done with Etchified. And that's a big decision for a lot of people. I think that could be really scary. Do you remember making that transition?
I don't want to butt in, but like I spoken to Alex Campbell quite a bit, and I'm having a website built. I'm not making no money. I have zero return. But I was really intrigued when he started talking on the Discord, because my thing is, I love social. Well, I haven't been on social media for 4 years. Starting to get back into it, it's kind of like very daunting. When I spoke to Alex, it kind of solidified. Like, yeah, I should get a website. It is. I can build a website, but I just offload that to someone else that knows what they're actually doing. And with your recommendation, pretty much I'm kind of headed to that path. Yes, it's not making money. It's not having any traffic right now, but in the future, it can alleviate that well, we're going back and forth with the customer. I love talking to people, don't get me wrong, but the few things that I've done, I've spent hours. Is this good? Go up, go down, go left, go right. Like, I've spent that time. And talking with Alex was more like, okay, I need to do the website. So I offloaded that. I have someone else doing the website, how they think it should go with this Akiki plugin. So I'm very happy to get this website done. And I'm not making any money, but it's going to be there. It's one of those things that I reached in the pocket and I said, you know what? Let's spend the money on that. So.
You're in a great position too, Tony, because I feel like with kind of like how we were talking about last episode. We were talking about the Glowforge, right? And how you wished you could have skipped the Glowforge. I feel like my shop setup right now, where we're doing get or done laser engraving, is kind of like the Glowforge stage a little bit, you know, where somebody in Tony's position who can see that path in advance before they start walking and can start moving in that direction from the beginning is going to have an easier time moving that direction than somebody who's invested a lot of time and resources into the job shop mentality. Because that's kind of bringing me back to the question I'm asking, because it's like, you know, you started kind of with like the job shop mentality and you evolved out of it. Was that transition difficult?
You know, not particularly, right? Because, you know, for me, I guess I sort of saw the bottleneck, right, of being like my time, and that's the thing, right? Is that, you know, like when I was younger, it was you know, time was not the finite resource. It was always money was the finite resource, right? And, you know, as I've gotten older, it flips, right? You're like, you know, when you get to the point where, like, you know, you're in a shop, you get all the gear and stuff like that. You're like, okay, like I have all the gear, like what, you know, what's my bottleneck, right? And the bottleneck is time for me, right? So, and, you know, like, not like, you know, philosophically time, you know, like I'm gonna die and, you know, how many? It's like, it's more like just like in a day, there's only so many hours, right? And do I want to spend those hours, you know, doing value added activity, putting, you know, my saying, and if it's burning, it's earning, right? You know, do I want to spend my time, you know, burning cups, or do I want to spend my time dealing with, you know, like customer after customer after customer, right? And from my experience, the customers that walk in, those are the neediest customers, right? Like those are the ones that are like that are tough to deal with, right? And I mean, it's, I would say that, and I'm not saying like this is not a path for everyone, right? Like, you know, like for me, I'm trying to grow my business. Like, you know, like I'm on a path to, you know, I want to have a 7-figure business, right? I want to have something where I can, you know, essentially manage a team of people that are manufacturing things, right? And, you know, for me, you know, and I wish I had this grand strategic document that I was like going off of and said, like, you know, you know, at any given point in this journey, like if you asked me, it's like the job, you know, the job interview question, well, where do you see yourself in 5 years? I don't know where I see myself in 5 months. You know, like, you know, it's really just sort of evolved organically, right? But, you know, like when you want to like build something that's scalable, you need to like look at all your bottlenecks, right? And that's really where, you know, I've really paid a lot of attention to like lean manufacturing concepts. And there's two like awesome, YouTubers out there. There's John Grimsmo. I don't know if you guys have ever seen Grimsmo Knives, like unbelievable stuff, like John Grimsmo, and then John Saunders with like NYC CNC.
Yeah.
And they're two guys that like literally started off in their garages and they've built like these like massive, you know, like multi-million-dollar businesses. Like, and you've watched them, like you like Grimsmo Knives, you can go back to like where he's like, you know, like literally on a Tormach in his garage, you know, like making knives, or like actually like a modified grizzly mill that he like did a CNC conversion on, to like running a shop with like $1 million machines. Right. And like, but for me, that's just been the path that I've chosen. Right. And that's what it is. Right. But I'm not saying that like, you know, if you know, if you want to run a job shop and you can come up with a way to like streamline that, and you're also, you know, not scared to charge the prices, right? Like, you know, this woman that came in and she had like a golf, you know, like a golf trophy, and like she wanted like just another line burnt onto a golf trophy, right? And I'm like, okay, like, you know, it'll be $30. And she looks at me, she's like, I'll give you 20. And I'm just like, you know, like that had never happened to me before. Like, you know, now I'd probably be like, okay, like, you know, go to the other place that will turn this around tomorrow for you. You know, like, oh, wait a minute, they've all shut down. But then also, like, to me, it's also, you know, like you look at it in like traditional engraving shops, like there's not very many of them around, right? And you have to look at like, be like, okay, well, why is there not that many around anymore, right? So it's kind of this thing. And, you know, I'm also saying that, like, not saying that like you can't run a successful business off of social media alone, but for me, it's the time investment that it takes to run that social media, and like the amount of time it takes to invest to be able to, you know, interact with people and stuff. That's a lot of effort, right? To you know, get a payoff, right? And the bottom line is that, you know, if you're a big corporation, you can, you know, they hire social media managers to do that stuff. If I'm one person, you know, is my time better off paying a company to manage my Google ads, or is my time better off spent, you know, like every day going back and forth with people being like, well, yeah, can you get this, you know, this color of Yeti tumbler that was discontinued 2 years ago? And, you know, that's the only thing I want to buy. And, you know, then, you know, give me something frilly with a unicorn on it, right? Like, like that's just how I've chose to have my business, right? Bottom line is, if you're getting into this, like I did a lot of job shop work, right? And it can be fun, but you know, as if you choose to scale, right? I mean, my overhead now for my shop is more money than I used to make doing laser engraving, right? Or even like CNC wood signs, right? So
and that's like the thing is, you were saying that the bottleneck is time now. You have a million hats to wear because you're a business owner. What parts of this are you sending out? Are you doing any marketing on your own at all, or do we outsource that? Did you outsource your website design, or are you doing that by hand? What parts of this do you find value in maintaining direct control over, and which parts are you willing to send out and have other people deal with so that you can focus on your business?
So this is ever evolving, right? So I've always done my own website work, and I'll continue to do my own website work. However, if I was to, my next hire would probably be someone that would be good at photography, social media, graphic design. So I'd probably hire a creative before I'd hire another production person. So right now I have one production assistant. She's an all-star. Like she has come in 2 months, since I moved into this new shop. She basically runs production, right? And honestly, on a daily basis, I can sort of be relatively hands off with production, and that's been absolutely fantastic, right? So, and she works 5 hours a day, 5 days a week, and that's been working just absolutely fantastic. And then come Christmas time, she'll likely move to a more full-time position, right? So that's once you have the system, right? So it's not so a part of that in lean manufacturing, lean process is building your entire core values around a system that anyone can do, right? So it's this turnkey business idea. And there's an excellent book that I'd recommend to anyone who has an entrepreneurial spirit at all, called The E-Myth. And there's an audiobook version of it. The E-Myth Revisited is the one that I listen to. And it's awesome. Basically, it really talks about the different hats you need to wear. So there's an entrepreneur that's the visionary, the person that's okay, they have the growth mindset. There's the manager, that's the person that's okay, I need to order more boxes from Uline, that type of thing. And we need to get this stock in. We need to do that. And then there's the technician, right? And the technician is the person that does the work. And the problem is that a lot of us are technicians. In fact, most people are technicians. A dentist is a technician. You're the person that does the actual work. And then all of a sudden you're I want to run a business, and you have no idea what the actual business is. So for me, figuring out which hat I want to wear. And for me, I'm finding that the manager entrepreneur hat is there. And I love the technical aspect. Don't get me wrong. I love nerding out about lasers and stuff, but when it comes down to production, I've now realized that that sort of stuff I can, and because of the systems that we've built around, making this easy and streamlined process to actually get things out the door, I can hire someone now to actually run the sort of day-to-day production. So I still work on research and development of new items. I still work on the website, all the, purchasing I still do, but that's been a big one. Now, the other piece is that I hired, and probably the scariest and best decision I've made is I hired a marketing agency. So one big thing with websites is that there's two ways to get people to your website. There's organic search results, and then there's paid search results. Now, organic is cheap. That's just someone Googles, laser engraving New York, and they find, your laser shop, right? The other way, and that just shows up in Google search results. The other way is that you pay for an ad to show up when someone types in laser engraving New York. And what I found is that process is the ads part of it is so rapidly evolving, and all the SEO stuff is so intense that I just I didn't have the time to actually manage that properly. So I hired a company back in April to, first of all, they started off with an audit of my website. So, and that was we're not talking small fry money, but I've always come into this with the growth mindset, right? You need to invest money to make money, so they did an audit of my website and came back and they said, here's all the things that we do. All your, none of your photos are tagged properly. So people are searching for things that are not going to come up. None of your metadata is good, all that stuff. So they did an SEO analysis of my website, but then they actually looked at my Google ads campaigns that I was running. And they said, okay, this is kind of a disaster. This isn't converting well, et cetera, right? So basically I paid them a lot of money, $5,000 up front to do all of the work. So they did all the SEO on my website, helped me really do a lot of things to like clean up my website and how Google finds my website and when it's crawled by like Google or like I guess some weirdos probably use Bing, but but like when my wife, yeah, I don't know what you guys do in Australia, but just Bing it, right? Yeah, but like so they cleaned that up for me, but then like the expensive part and the part that like I still question whether like I'm getting the best value out of them, if I'm not changing my product lineup, it's probably not the best value, is that I actually have them on a retainer. So basically on a monthly basis, they go through, they do all my updates with SEO, and then they also optimize my Google ads. So they look at what's like keywords, like, so if I'm spending a lot of money, if someone's, searching like, custom laser engraving, Ontario, and they're looking for like job shop work or something like that, and it's coming up with like my stuff, I'm paying for someone to click on that ad, but it's not getting me anything. So they go through and they clean all that stuff up. That I spend as much money as that on that as I spend on actual Google ads. And like right now I have a budget of like $2,000 a month on Google ads.
Wow.
So, and like offline, I can tell you guys like the sort of like sales numbers I'm doing, but like it's been worthwhile. Like my sales since I hired this team, my sales have more than doubled since I hired them. And like every month is a record month. And what we're seeing is that as time goes and the SEO stuff is working, the SEO it's flipping. So I'm actually getting a higher proportion of organic search results that where people are just searching for custom personalized items in Canada, and then they're finding my stuff. Right now, where I'm going to get the value out of them is that I've focused a lot on tumblers, but now especially that I've got my big CO2 Galvo working for a wide variety of objects, so things like cutting boards and other items, I'm going to be adding a whole bunch of lineups, right? Because really I want Etchified to be the site where people come, not just for custom tumblers, right? Like, everyone, I have the, you guys ever like the Dave Chappelle episode where like he's got like and he's like, you got any more, I can't remember.
Yeah.
You got it.
Yeah.
There's a meme of that, right? So I have the meme up here. It's like, y'all got any more of them Yetis? It's like, because people just are like, like I don't want to be just the custom Yeti guy, right? I want to be the the personalized gifting, right? And that's like my whole company, my company like vision is Etchified, make things personal. Like that's our vision, right? Make things personal. So I want to be the site where someone comes to, grandma's got 80th birthday coming up. They come on, they buy her a cake pan. Someone's got something coming up or groomsmen gifts. They buy them cufflinks or they buy them fidge wallets, or whatever, right? Fidge. So it's so it's I want to be this like full service personalization, right? Tumblers has been my gateway drug to that just because of the demand for them. But really like my vision for the company is this whole sort of thing, right? And where I'm going to get the value out of my marketing team that I'm paying like ghastly amounts of money is when I start doing that, is that they're going to help me figure out what keywords and what is actually hitting with that stuff, right? And then, as I said, like, moving forward, because I pay them almost as much as I would pay an employee. And in fact, I could probably hire an employee for what I actually pay. Well, maybe not. I could almost hire an employee. I could hire a half-time employee for sure for like what I pay this company. Mm-hmm. So I think once I'm done the retainer with them, I'll probably look at bringing someone on at least half-time, if not full-time, that's going to be in charge of social media. Hopefully find someone with some graphic design experience that can do some graphic design stuff for me, do some website maintenance and stuff like that, and then worry about that side of things, right? And then that frees up my entrepreneurial brain. So that'll be like the managerial side. That frees up my like managerial and like entrepreneur brain to say like, okay, like how can I grow this? How can I expand this, right? So I think there's lots of opportunities out there, right? You just have to be able to have the processes in place.
What was the name of the book again that you were recommending?
So there's two books I'd recommend, like hands down. So the one is the E-Myth. It's the E-Myth Revisited. And I'd have to look on my phone to see who it's by. And then another one for anyone that's interested in, like, if you do like batch work at all, like you need to look up the concept of lean manufacturing, right? Like lean manufacturing has like revolutionized how I do my work. And I like haven't even completely bought into the lean manufacturing. Like, so for instance, I don't have a good inventory management system yet. And that's sort of like one of my next like big things. But like, as far as our production system goes, like we have things like, you start running out of Uline boxes. Instead of like looking through Uline for your past orders, you like look and say, oh, here's the stack of boxes that's out. Here's the label of like what Uline part number it is. let's just order those, right? Like, so it's all these like little things, right? And like lean manufacturing is all about just like reducing the little things and reducing waste, right? So like that's why we have a production cell. One of the big wastes of production is movement, right? If you have to walk across the shop every time to get a box, you need to pack something, or the shipping printers across the shop, then that's wasting time, right? It's also wasting, reducing your actual waste, like your scrap waste. So rework products. So making sure that, like having systems in place to like check things. So we have tons of burner cups, right? I'd rather, take a spray painted burner cup and take the 10 seconds to do a test engrave than I would to wreck a cup because we don't have a graphic right or something like that, right? So it's a lot of these, tons and tons of concepts. So the book is called The Toyota Way. That's the other book I'd recommend. And it's really a good introduction into lean manufacturing, right? And there's also some other ones, like there's the lean product playbook and stuff that's also like, how do you, from the mindset of like, if you're starting to develop a product, how do you develop this product with the eye to manufacturing? So as I say, like I'm bringing in things like dog tags and stuff, what I'm doing is I'm bringing in products now, and because I have the Etchified manufacturing system, essentially, I can bring in a product now, say like and I'm not talking dog military dog tags. I'm talking like pet tags, right? Because people spend, like the amount of requests I get for $65 Yeti dog bowls is insane, right? Yep. But like pet tags. So, but because I have this lean production system, all it is me taking a picture of it, uploading it to Zakiki now, and then making them when they come in, right? So I got and the fiber laser. So I'm building my fiber laser production cell now, right? That's going to have all of the fiber laser items there with all the boxes, all the packaging stuff, and then basically have the cell. So like an order comes in for dog tags, you go into the fiber cell. Order comes in for tumblers, you go into the tumbler cell, right?
So much value to provide on that, and I've got a ton of questions too. I really want to cover all of that. We're going to cover it in the Patreon bonus episode. It's coming up. So if you guys have enjoyed listening to Alex Campbell and you want to hear what he has to say after I'm done rudely interrupting him, go check out the Patreon episode. You can find it over at patreon.com/lasereverything. If you're not already a supporter over there, we've got a bunch of different tiers that provide a lot of different value. The cheapest tier will get you access to that bonus episode. There's other stuff. You can get live streams from the channel, instant access to our CO2 and fiber laser parameter libraries, and just a ton of other value. There's loads and loads of value in there for you. You go check that out. It's lasereverything.net / I don't even know what to say. It's patreon.com/lasereverything. I've got so many URLs. Patreon.com/lasereverything. The ebooks, again, that we would want to check out. We'll go ahead and link these all in the description for you so you can check them out. We've got the E-Myth Revisited, the Toyota Way, and the Lean Production, or the Lean Production Playbook. Was that what it was?
Lean Product Playbook.
Lean Product Playbook. So we'll link those down in the description so you can check those out on Alex's recommendation as well. Alex, seriously, man, thank you so much. You've given away so much value today. This is probably the most valuable episode of this podcast that we've had ever, and possibly will have for a long time, because it's just been such a concentrated force of energy from you. You really know what you're talking about. You're living it right now. You're not somebody looking back on this process from 10 years ago. This is all really, really fresh and very, very real. And I think people are really going to take so much away from being able to listen to you talk about these subjects. I know that we can see you on the Discord. We can have a chat with you on there and see the kind of stuff that you're actually working on day to day in the shop. But where else will people be able to find you if they wanted to follow you on like social media? I know you do have a couple accounts and of course your website.
Yeah, so my social media game, as I continuously mentioned, is pretty weak. So if you want to see like my like one post a month, it's at Etchified on Facebook and Instagram.
Perfect.
And if you want to see like the website and sort of the concepts behind the website, go check out etchified.com. ETCHIFIED.
Excellent. Yeah, that's awesome. I'm sure people will be flocking anywhere they can get exposure to you and your company because, again, you've just provided such a tremendous value today. Unfortunately, I didn't have time to let the other hosts ask their questions, but we are going to have so much time to do that now that we've covered. I think we've checked every single item that we had planned out to talk with Alex Campbell about today on the podcast. We've checked them all off the list. So if you want access, again, to that Patreon bonus episode. It's coming up right now, where the hosts will be able to ask some questions, and I've got a couple smaller questions that I want to ask too. We're going to try not to use up too much airtime on my questions because that's all I've done all day today. But if you want to listen to that, please go support the show over at patreon.com/lasereverything. And that's all I've got, guys. Thank you so much for listening or watching if you have been watching on the YouTube channel. And don't forget to rate and review if you're listening on Apple Podcasts. It helps us reach more people that can really use this information. And we're all about helping each other out here. That's what this is all about. There's also a link to the Discord in the description and the show notes. So if you want to join an amazing laser community, this is where we met Alex Campbell, is on the Discord. We have I think we're well over 700 members now on the Discord community. It's an amazing place. People love lasers. They love talking about lasers, business. They share settings and try to help each other figure things out. We're solving problems and encouraging each other. And like we'd mentioned earlier, iron sharpens iron, right? You want to be around these people that have the entrepreneurial mindset. You want to be around these people that have the drive and that are going to bring that positivity into your life. The Discord is the place you really want to be. Because you're going to be able to surround yourself with those people, kind of like a co-working space, and be able to see what other people are working on and get help when you need it. So go check that out. Link in the description as well. I've blabbed on long enough. Tony, where can people find you?
Etched Ideas on all social media platforms and soon to be etchedideas.com.
Excellent. And Gio?
I'm on Instagram and YouTube at Maker Theory, MAKR Theory.
Perfect. Hopefully by the time this is the second episode in the series, maybe by the time this episode releases, we'll have an episode from you over at Maker Theory. I'm really excited. And Lithgow, what's up, man? Where can people find out what you're working on?
LithgowLights.com, which is mostly my light stuff, but slowly working on the laser side, and on Facebook at Lithgow Lights,
right.
And of course on the Discord.
Perfect. Again, if you want to hear these guys chat, stick around for the Patreon bonus episode that's going to be up on the Patreon. Alex Campbell, one last time, thank you so much for everything that you've shared with us today. It's
thank you.
Just been an incredible ride. I'm sad it's over, so I'm really getting amped up to hop over to the Patreon bonus episode and listen to some of that content as well. I really appreciate your time, man. Thank you.
Well, yeah, you're very welcome, and Alex, I think that all of us can say thank you for bringing the laser community together. I've been waiting a long time for to have a community coalesce like this has. So between like the Discord and the Patreon content, I thank you because you are a big inspiration to a lot of us too. So thanks.
We're working really hard to bring people just like really good information, and being a Patreon supported channel makes that super easy because we're beholden to them and helping them out. So that's the number one goal, but it wouldn't be anything without people like you guys willing to share that information. So thank you again so much for watching or listening, everybody, and we'll see you in the next one.